Tonight on Free Minds TV, should the drinking age be lowered from 21 down to 18? Presidents at universities across the nation weigh in their opinion, and a lot of them say, yes, it should. Free Minds TV agrees. We'll be getting into the article. We're also going to be traveling across the pond to the UK, where a man was arrested for taking a photograph of a police officer. All that and a whole lot more when we return on Free Minds TV. And welcome to Free Minds TV, where we challenge you, the viewer, to think outside the box. With you, as always, is Toby.
And Nick.
So when I opened up the paper yesterday, actually, I was pleased to see an article on the front page about lowering the drinking age. It's something that the debate really should be there, but over the past few years, it just hasn't been. It's something that is a huge topic. We're the only nation, I believe, that has a drinking age of 21. The rest of the world has woken up to the fact that just because you tell people they can't drink till they're 21, they're not going to do so, and there are going to be some consequences for raising the drinking age so high. The freest nation in the world, one of the highest drinking ages. I mean, there are some countries that don't allow drinking at all, but for the ones that do, 21 is the highest, and for the freest nation in the world, that seems to spark my interest, because I know it's a topic we've talked about here on Free Minds TV, but the article went into some more prestigious people talking about it. I mean, who are we? We're just a couple young guys doing some news commentary here. Why should anyone listen to us? Well, it looks like college presidents from 100 of the top-known universities, such as Dartmouth, Colgate, other really well-known universities, have gotten together and are calling for a national debate on the subject because it's something that is really huge in college life. If anyone's been to college, especially recently, you will know that there is some drinking that goes on, and just because there's a drinking age of 21 absolutely does not mean people are going to follow it. What does that give us? A lot of unintended consequences. Binge drinking goes way up when you have a drinking age of 21 because people can't go out and go to the bar and drink responsibly, can't learn to drink responsibly. They often resort to going to house parties where there's a lot of binge drinking going on, drinking to get drunk, and there's no real learning on how to drink. So it's a problem that it really should be talked about, and I'm glad to see that there's actually some real debate going on about it.
Yeah, I think we actually tie with a couple of nations for the highest drinking age, but we are tied for the top place. And those countries, I believe it's like Pakistan, there's a couple others, but they're predominantly Muslim nations that much of the population has a problem with the consumption of alcohol being allowed at all, and they're religious states. So supposedly the freest country in the world ties with them and where its drinking age is. And the rest of the industrialized world, what we think of as the first world, Europe, Canada, Australia, many Asian nations, either they don't have a drinking age at all that's really enforced, or they have one that's 18 or lower. So 18 is actually not a terribly low drinking age compared to the rest of the world.
I mean, yeah, we could throw in the whole, well, you can join the armed services and die for your country at 18. You're also an adult. You can be charged as an adult, yet you're not mature enough to drink. That goes without saying. But what are some of the unintended consequences? I mentioned house parties and binge drinking. Well, a lot of the time, these house parties take place in pretty sketchy places. I mean, I just graduated college a little over a year ago. I was in a fraternity, so there were a lot of parties that went on. I'm just saying that I wouldn't want my kid probably going out to some of these parties at 18. I'd feel more safe with them going to a place like a bar where there's more responsible, sober people around, a bouncer, and then some sketchy basement somewhere where you're not really sure where they are. And it's not going to make people stop drinking at all. These laws, just because there's a rule written on a piece of paper saying, well, you're going to get a fine if you go out drinking because you're not 21 yet, it's not going to make people stop. I'm sorry. It's just not going to work.
Well, we've had the drinking age set at 21 at a national level, basically, because it's not a national law for those who aren't really familiar with the topic. Some people think it is. What it is that Congress has threatened to withhold highway funding, or actually, I think it's like 10% of highway funding for any state that allows minors to possess or purchase alcohol in public. So basically, they're hanging that money in front of the states like a carrot in front of a horse, and all of the states have gone for it. But it has had a negative effect. It certainly hasn't had a positive one, and we haven't seen people from the ages of 18 to 21 drinking less. In fact, binge drinking rates are going up. So
well, people are drinking to get drunk. Say someone's going out to ball game or something, and there's people typically like to drink beforehand. Well, if you're 21, no problem. You can go and have a drink at the ball game. But if you're not 21, well, you got to get drunk before you go there, right? Instead of just having a beer before you go out, you might be drinking some shots before you go out of hard alcohol, which is more dangerous. You're going to get into binge drinking rather than going out and enjoying yourself, having a beer or two. And trust me, if you're going out and having a beer or two after paying $10 for a couple of drinks, you're not going to drink too many of them if you're paying for them as you go out. But if you're staying here, staying in the house and drinking before you go out, yeah, you're going to get into some binge drinking. Of course, Mothers Against Drunk Driving is coming out against this, saying that we're going to see alcohol deaths skyrocket if we raise the drinking age, lower the drinking age a little bit. Well, I don't know. I'm just not so sure about it. I think we could actually see some more responsible drinking, not only in the 18-year-olds, but also in the ones who are older. Because let's not forget, I'm 24 now, but I lived through an era where I wasn't supposed to drink until I was 21. Not saying whether that stopped me or not, but let's be real here. Did it stop you? I mean, what are we actually seeing here? We could actually reduce drunk driving rates because people are becoming educated about drinking at a younger age, being introduced to it at a younger age where they see, well, I can have a drink or two. I don't need to get hammered when I drink. But people who are going to college for the first time, drinking sometimes for the first, second, third time when they go to college, well, they're going to be drinking to get hammered because they're at a house drinking party where people are getting hammered. They're drinking to get drunk. I think that starting at a younger age, introducing it at a younger age, we'd see a much healthier America, and we might actually see drunk driving accidents decrease, not increase. So the folks at Mothers Against Drunk Driving, they're really all up in arms about this. I know that one time I tried to get involved with them when I was in college to help reduce drunk driving. And one of the suggestions I said is, why don't we give out some free taxi passes? We'll pay for taxi rides for people coming home from the bars. That way they're not getting into their vehicles and driving. They're just using the free taxi passes we give them. We could also give it out to people who are drinking at parties so they don't have to drive home. Well, we can't do that because we have to be under the assumption that people aren't drinking to get drunk and people aren't drinking underage. If we give an underage person a free taxi ride home, well, that means we're saying it's okay for an underage person to drink, isn't it? So you kind of get where Mothers Against Driving is coming from. They're kind of mad, and they're not really thinking logically, as people who are mad, if you've ever been around someone who's angry, they're usually all emotional and they're not thinking rationally. The frontal part of their brain where lots of thoughts are processed, where the rational thinking comes out, well, when you get all emotional, it's bypassed. And I think that's what those people, the mad people are. They're just taking rational thought and just throwing it out the window. So I say let the debate rage on. I'm glad that these colleges are bringing it up, and let's hope that something can actually be done about this because, well, what are we doing here in America? The freest country in the world, letting our young men, young women die for our country, yet they can't have a drop of alcohol. It doesn't make sense to me.
Me either, but I think we're going to be working on that one for a while.
Yes.
Now,
change is slow.
One of the reasons we have basically a federalized drinking age is that the federal government gets involved in issues that should really be left up to the states or to the people. And Downsizer DC is working on reducing the size of the federal government, and they're making some progress in getting one of their pieces of legislation, the Enumerated Powers Act, passed. Now, we reported on this just a couple weeks ago, and we had told you that it was doing very well, that it had something like 52 co-sponsors in the House of Representatives, and it was introduced in the Senate, received 22 co-sponsors almost immediately. And now there's a new addition. Since Downsizer DC last reported on the Enumerated Powers Act and the progress it was making, they had sent out a call for people who are on their Downsizer Dispatch email list, which you can sign up for if you're interested in that, at downsizerdc.org. They had sent out this message telling people to contact the representatives and either thank them for co-sponsoring the bill if they had, or get in touch with them and ask them to please co-sponsor the bill. And Representative Sessions, I forget the state he's from, I'm pretty sure he's a Republican, has come out and co-sponsored the bill. So progress is being made there, and it's a surprising amount of progress because when Downsizer DC first started coming up with some of these ideas like the Write the Laws Act, the Read the Bills Act, which pretty much do what it sounds like. It tells Congress that they have to actually write every law that goes into effect at the federal level, and they have to read the bills that they're voting on before they vote on them or hear them read. There were some very basic reforms. Sadly, I didn't think they were going to get any kind of traction, but as we've seen with the Enumerated Powers Act, there is a substantial bloc out there that is in Congress that is willing to vote for at least some of these reforms, and they're not going to fix problems overnight, but they will slow down the federal government and how fast it can grow, and hopefully lead to a turnaround where maybe we can reverse this trend and reduce the federal government. Just a thought, but maybe we have a little bit too much government in Washington and we need to be scaling back instead of increasing the amount of money we spend there or borrow and spend there.
All craziness, Nick. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Anyways, for more information, log on to downsizedc.org. I'd like to take this time to invite the viewers to log on to our website, freemindstv.com. From there, you have all sorts of archives of the show, both video as well as Free Minds Radio. There's also ways you can help the show, donate to the show. Everything that you want to know about Free Minds TV is up there, freemindstv.com. When we come back, we are going to be getting into a man who was arrested for taking a picture of a police officer who was breaking the law. Stay tuned. This is Free Minds TV.
Log on to freemindstv.com for archives of the show, the Free Minds Radio podcasts, show content and the forum, ways to donate, the members section, contact info, and a whole lot more, all at freemindstv.com.
Free Minds TV is brought to you in part by freekeen.com, bringing liberty activists together with blogs, a forum, and more, all at freekeen.com. That's freekeen.com.
I'm Sam with OTN, and you're watching Free Minds TV, one of the few media sources that asks you to think for yourself.
And welcome back to the show where we challenge you, the viewer, to think outside the box. With you, as always, is Toby.
And Nick.
All right. Well, you know, police officers, when they're breaking the law, they don't like people to know about it. So if you take their picture, they might get a little ornery. Well, we have a Constitution over here which is supposed to protect us. It doesn't always. We've shown many times of the police breaking laws and arresting people for taking pictures for it or audio recording them. We're not saints over here, but it seems they've got it a little bit worse over in the UK. Nick, what's the story? A man was taking a picture of a police officer who was not following proper procedure, breaking the law here, and was actually arrested for it?
Yeah, the man's name is Andrew Carter, and he was walking down what was a one-way street. I believe he was walking his dog. Well, he saw a police van back up the wrong way, up a one-way street where it said one way or no entry. And clearly the police officers could see that. They proceeded to back up anyway. Now you might say it could be police business. I mean, the police, at least what Mr. Carter claims, is that when he asked the police why they were backing up because it was a one-way street, they said, F off, it's police business. Well, they were backing up to get to a chip shop.
The chip is we're here in America. The UK, that's some kind of coffee shop, is it?
Well, chips are actually, in the UK, they're French fries.
Oh,
so
a
it's
French
like
fry shop.
French fries, fried food, you know.
He was hungry.
Right. So he was, I guess they don't have donut shops or something, not to poke too much fun, but this reinforces those negative stereotypes when you have police abusing their power to get to a chip shop. And
so he was rude. Let's not persecute him too much for that. What happened next?
Well, Mr. Carter proceeded to photograph the police van and try to photograph the police officer. I'm assuming he was going to try to file some kind of a complaint or just let the police department know that one of their officers had disregarded a traffic sign. And the officer, I think it's Ali Farouk, came out and actually, according to Mr. Carter, attacked him. And it sounds pretty reasonable that this would happen. We've heard similar stories from the United States, and knocked him to the ground. And supposedly, Mr. Carter assaulted a police officer with his camera.
Did it hit him in the nose or something? Backing him to the ground?
It seems unlikely that you'd use a camera as a weapon, but that's what the police are claiming. It seems pretty clear that the police officer lost his temper.
Whereas actually taking a picture of him in the assault, like you took a picture of me,
well,
and was that assault?
I think the idea here is no. I think the idea is that he was assaulted physically with the camera,
okay.
but England has some very strange, creepy laws about that
You
can't
even have a
photograph
kitchen
police
knife or something.
officers.
Now, I'd just like to take this time to say, for people out there, this can happen in America too, and it does happen in America. The best thing is, if you're going to be taking pictures of any government official, it's usually best to have a couple people with you. Safety in numbers. I mean, cameras do help to make those bureaucrats shape up a little bit, scare them a little bit. But if you're alone, I mean, they can just rough you up and take the camera. So there's always safety in numbers. If you're going out there and filming the police or other government officials and they might not like it, it's a good idea to maybe bring a couple friends along. Maybe have one of your friends videotape while you're interacting with them, say. Safety is always in numbers because, well, if there's witnesses, the cop's word doesn't count as much, because in this case, it's the cop's word against the guy's word. The guy, what's he have to say about it, right? So what's happened to him?
Well, not much. I mean, there was an official hearing. It doesn't sound like any actual disciplinary action is going to be taken, which isn't too surprising. The police officer did at least apologize face-to-face at the hearing. It sounds like they were going to review some closed-circuit TV footage of a separate incident relating to this particular officer, so this might be a pattern of behavior.
Yes.
But
well, at least he apologized. They don't do that very often here in America when they mess up. There's very rarely an apology.
That much is true, but this officer had duties about 2 years previously with community outreach for the police and trying to help police build their image in the community. It was one of those programs to try to reach out so that people trust the police more. And then when he's actually on the job, acting as he would in every day-to-day duty, he clearly violates the public's trust and puts a bad image of police into people's heads. And it happens far too often, not just in the UK, but the United States. And not only is it an abuse of everyday citizens, but it is counterproductive for the police out there trying to do their jobs. Because people aren't going to trust the police so much if they see some police breaking the law and getting away with it and attacking people who are simply taking a picture of them breaking the law, which is the kind of thing police do all day, supposedly, is enforce the laws. But they don't. Some of them, generally a small percentage, I would say, don't feel the laws apply to them. But that really, it impinges on how the other police officers can do their job.
All right. Well, let's move on a little bit here. We've been reporting on the TSA and the no-fly list, as well as the terrorism watch list. Well, there's been an update, and it turns out that if you are on the no-fly list, meaning you can't board an airplane, a little bit different than the terror watch list, where you just have to go through the extra screening. Previously, you couldn't get off it if you were on it. If your name's on the no-fly list, well, you can't fly. If your name's on the terror watch list, well, expect to go through the really invasive procedures before you get on an airplane, the secondary screening and all that fun stuff. Previously, nothing you can do about it. Well, if you got hundreds and hundreds of dollars and hundreds of hours, now you might be able to do something about it. Nick, what's the new news?
Well, in a 2-1 ruling, the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco has reinstated a lawsuit. Previously, you could only sue the TSA in the Court of Appeals, not in front of a jury at a regular hearing, because the TSA, they were not required to give you such a hearing. But the judges have looked at how they compile this no-fly list, and since the FBI is actually the agency that goes out there, collects all the information, they've said that, well, you should have the same procedural oversight that you have if it's the FBI enforcing this list. And this could be at least a small step forward in regaining some civil liberties that have been lost since September 11th. This particular lawsuit relates to the case of a Stanford University student who was on her way back to Malaysia, which was her home country, when she was arrested, actually in front of her daughter, because a United Airlines employee had noticed her name on the no-fly list at the ticket counter. They alerted the TSA, and she was arrested. Well, she was held for a few hours and then released, and she was able to board a plane the next day, and they didn't arrest her then. But the thing about the no-fly list is you don't know whether or not you're on it. I mean, presumably you figure it out when they arrest you and you're not allowed to board the airplane and you're not actually charged with anything. That's probably a good tip-off. But currently the government doesn't have to confirm or deny, and they don't confirm or deny who is actually on the no-fly list. This ruling, in part, people are going to be able to go to court and either find out if they're on the no-fly list or get their name removed, because currently there's no way to get your name off of it. A bureaucratic agency, without very much oversight that I'm aware of, can simply add your name to the no-fly list, make it impossible for you to travel by airplane, and up until this point, there's really been nothing you can do about it except go through the TSA itself in a long bureaucratic process, and the TSA probably isn't going to be a very effective check on itself. So hopefully this is some good news, and hopefully some people do challenge their no-fly status, because there are people on that list. While it is smaller than the terror watch list, there are people on the no-fly list that don't belong there.
Well, it's still a little bit ridiculous because you're proving your innocence rather than them proving your guilt, which isn't the way that the justice system here in America is supposed to work. But hey, I guess it's better than nothing, and it's all probably going to cost you, too, if you're going to do it. Personally, I don't know. It might be easier just not to fly. When we come back, what do you do when your home can't sell, yet the town thinks it's worth a lot of money, so you got to pay the taxes? We'll be getting into one story that's right from around here in Chesterfield, New Hampshire, where the town assessment has put the home values as high, yet, well, their market value is still low. Stay tuned. This is Free Minds TV.
Free Minds TV is brought to you in part by Life Productions for your basic and semi-pro video production needs. From full wedding and event coverage to DVD authoring and distributions, lifeproductions.com. That's lyfproductions.com.
Thank you, Spencer. This is Mark Edge from Free Talk Live, and you're watching Free Minds TV.
And welcome back to Free Minds TV, where we challenge you, the viewer, to think outside the box. With you, as always, is Toby.
And Nick.
All right, Nick, you are into homes, selling homes and all that fun stuff, real estate. Maybe you like this story. This coming from Chesterfield, New Hampshire, right next to where we broadcast from in Keene, New Hampshire, where it seems that the town has decided to reassess the property values. Yeah, they do this periodically so that they can know how much to rob people of their tax dollars, so they know how much the value is worth, so how much to tax them on. Well, Chesterfield, like the rest of the country, their home values haven't been selling all that much. The real estate values have been going along with the rest of the market. Yet when they decided to reassess the property, the private company who did the assessing thought the homes were worth a lot more. Turns out in nearly all the cases, the property values were almost doubled. A home that was previously $235,000 went up to $335,000. That's a full third more, $100,000 more. Now, the town says that, quote, even though the assessed value may increase, it does not mean that property taxes will do the same. What? Give me a break. I mean, I haven't owned a home, but I've rented a home, and when I see property taxes go up, I've seen my rent increase because my landlord's property taxes are going up. I've also known people who have homes too, and they know that when the property value is increased, well, their taxes go up. Nick, do you know much about this, what the story is with this, how it works?
In New Hampshire, your property taxes, what you actually end up paying, are based on two things. What the town or city has your home assessed at. That's the value that the city... Right, the value that the city feels it's worth, and they generally set it with a company that sets these values. These values really don't have any relation to the real market value. They just don't. A lot of people look at them when they're selling their homes. It's not a terribly good indication of what your home is actually going to sell for. It's what the city or town claims it's worth. The second part of what you actually end up paying is the rate at which you're taxed. Now, it's true that some towns assess high. They might say, one town might say a home is worth $300,000, whereas most of the other ones would only say it's worth, say, $200,000. But they're probably going to have a lower rate per $1,000 of assessed value. While that's true, when Chesterfield assesses values up, I don't think they're going to cut their rate. That's not usually how it works. They're trying to generate more revenue, and it's a tough situation for homeowners because your real property value is going down. What the town says it's worth and what they say you owe them for the privilege of living in that town is going up. So it's a really tough situation for homeowners, especially people who might need to sell, because if tax values, tax bills go up in Chesterfield, that makes it look less appealing. People might go to a neighboring town, say Westmoreland has lower taxes.
Yeah, well, I mean, what the stupid bureaucrats should be doing is reducing tax burdens on people because, well, times are tough. People are losing their jobs, scrounging for pennies. Gas is still high. It's been decreasing a little, but it's still high. Food prices are still high. And here they go, raising assessment values, which may not raise their taxes immediately. But let's be honest, since when do governments reduce tax burdens? I mean, it doesn't work that way. Taxes go up. It's just how the government works. That's why they're leeches. So this is crazy. I guess there's a special meeting later this week that they're going to be talking about this on. Not really sure what's going to be happening as right now. It still stands. I mean, they just did this assessment in 2004. Are you telling me that in a declining market, land value has gone up hundreds of thousands of dollars in Chesterfield in the past few years, while in the rest of the market's been declining?
It's not just Chesterfield. I can think of particular homes around the area, and I won't mention the towns, but their tax bill is significantly higher than what they're on the market for, and these properties haven't sold yet. I mean, you can have properties there $50,000 below what the town says they're worth, and the town won't lower the tax bill even though that property isn't moving. And if a property is actually, if the price is actually $50,000 less than what it's worth in real life, that thing would move in no time. But it should be an indication that what the town is saying is unrealistic. Many people don't realize that, but unfortunately, the town doesn't have to be realistic, and in many cases, they don't.
They recommend that they not be. This is just kind of interesting. In the article, it says when it's a private appraiser that does these things, so it's not actually the town going out and doing it. They hire someone to do the dirty work for them. When the appraiser was asked why the real estate market value was not considered in the reevaluation, they were told that it was a state recommendation not to put it in there. So the state actually recommends don't look at the real estate value of this home when you're appraising it. But when push comes to shove, that's all that really matters in the end anyways. You can't afford to pay taxes on your home. Can you sell it for what the state thinks it's worth?
Yeah, I wish that the assessments and what the actual values were matched up more closely. So I guess if your taxes are going to go up, hopefully at least your property value's gone up so you can sell it and maybe move to a lower tax town. Or if the market's going down, at least they could cut your taxes. But it doesn't, it's just not the way it works. And the town doesn't really have to play fair on this, unfortunately.
There's usually a bunch of scumbags. They're bureaucrats anyways. Not against all bureaucrats. Well, I don't know. Could get real jobs. Well, that's just going to about do it for us. It's been Toby here with you.
And Nick.
Join us at freemindstv.com. I just put a ton of new stuff up on the members section. All the back shows of Free Minds Radio, only $3 a month, $30 a year. Really helps the show. If you want more Free Minds TV, it's all up there on the members section at freemindstv.com. Thanks a lot, and have a great evening.